matchups with Balls.ie and Chicago Town. For the next few weeks, we'll be taking you through all of the midweek football action from the Champions League to the Conference League. And Chicago Town is your go-to pizza with the delicious dough and a real takeaway taste for less. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Tracey and Roddy Collins. Well, lads, it is good to have you here. And it was a brilliant week of European action. And I think we have to start with Liverpool. Certainly a result to forget for Liverpool. It was Liverpool 1, PSV 4. And they will have to travel to San Siro to play Inter in the next round. And I think Arne Slot, he's been given a reprieve by the Liverpool board, but it doesn't look good for him. Keith, what do you think's been going wrong? And do you think it is fixable?
I think it's fixable. I think when you've got that much talent in the dressing room, everything is fixable. One thing that I'm not quite sure about is everybody's talking to me about Arne Slot and tactically. And look, I get Szoboszlai playing right as it's a tactical thing that the manager's trying to do. I don't think Szoboszlai is the problem, but I think when you take him out of centre midfield and you put him right back, you're weakening the midfield and you're just patching up the right back situation. Kerkez at left back hasn't really set the world on fire. Van Dijk and Konate have been really poor, the two of them. And for some reason, all the Liverpool fans want to give Van Dijk a pass. They keep saying, oh, well, he's covering for Konate because he's been so poor and he's doing Kerkez's job and he has to cover Szoboszlai as well. Just worry about himself. His own individual performance has been really, really poor. Gravenberch hasn't been great. McAllister has been okay, but do you really want okay from a World Cup winner? You need more from McAllister in there. Isak hasn't done a thing since he started putting on a Liverpool jersey. The only signing that's been anyway decent has been Ekitike. The rest have been really, really average. And sometimes you can look at it and think, oh, of course it's going to take the new Liverpool players time to bed in. Have a look at the Arsenal signings. Every single one of the Arsenal signings, Eze, Madueke, Gyökeres, Zubamendi, Mosquera, Hincapi, have all hit the ground running. Everybody is contributing to the team. I'm not so sure I see that with Liverpool, and I'm not so sure why people want to look past all the bad performances that the players are given and go straight for the manager and think, we want to go after Slot. I don't think it's a tactical tweak. I'm not looking at it thinking tactically they're being, it's just not right. I think it's individual performances, individual mistakes. When you've got one of the best centre-halves in the world in Virgil van Dijk throwing his hand up in the air and giving away stupid penalties, you really are going to be up against it. So it's definitely fixable, Aisling, but whether or not Arne Slot is the one to fix it or not, I'm not too sure because it feels like time is running out.
I think that is the big question. And when you see so many players, so many high-level players off their game, is it a fact that Arne Slot has lost the dressing room? Roddy, in your experience, can that be fixed? And do you think he has lost the dressing room?
No, I don't think he's lost the dressing room. And I agree everything that Keith said there. Too many players off form. But you look, I look at it over maybe a 6-7 year period, and the likes of Van Dijk and Mo Salah, and that they were competing for league titles year in, year out, getting pipped on goal difference, getting pipped by a point, and they go and win a title. And to me, Van Dijk looks like the player that come back after his knee injury. The first season he come back, he looked very lethargic, and the right back position hasn't been sorted out. It's disjointed. When you see a team that's thrown the towel in, you'll see it. That Liverpool haven't thrown the towel. They proved against Real Madrid. They are competent when they all fire in all cylinders. But as Keith said, the personnel coming in. But you look at who's left. You got Nunez, Diaz, Jota, God rest his soul, and even Elliott. They all were there to make impact substitutes. They come off, change the dynamic of the game. They don't have that anymore. I think getting back to the supporters wanting the manager, Liverpool are probably the most loyal supporters along with Man United in English football. You'll rarely hear them boo their team off the pitch. So the easy thing to do is go after the manager. And there was a lot of talk last year that was Klopp's team that won the title. People saying he'd come in, it was seamless, and it was seamless, and it wasn't disjointed the way it is now. And then the personnel changes, and it's his responsibility. And I don't know, I listened to him. I haven't seen any weakness in him as regards him in his confidence, but he needs to stop the rot. Now, if I was a manager to stop the rot, you don't lose the next game. But at Liverpool, that's not good enough. You've got to win the next game. So it's 3 games coming up. They're all winnable games. If either or one or two of them goes against them, you say, okay, who's going to come in for him? unless Klopp puts his hand up, who are they going to expect, or who's the supporters want to come in? So, look, it's a tricky one. They're still only a couple of points off the fourth spot. You know, were they going to win the league this year? It was going to be hard because City had regrouped, Chelsea have regrouped, Arsenal got a bit stronger. So I think if they finish in the top four this season, recover where they're at now, and recover in Europe, that he'll be okay in the next 4 or 5 games.
Have you ever been in a position where you felt like you lost the dressing room, or maybe a manager that you played under?
Well, in Derry City was the only time as a manager that I never got the dressing room. I never had them. When you're a manager, you go in and take about a month, 2, 3 weeks a month to get the feel for it, get to know the personnel, then get to know you, get the respect, and you feel it coming back. In Derry, I never got that. It was horrendous. It was horrendous. As a player, when I played for Newport County, the manager we had, nobody liked him. I wasn't a likeable person at all, and he was very dogmatic. So I remember the lads actually saying this, we need to knock a few short passes to the keeper. And I didn't like that, but that was the mentality. So he was on the road, and I remember he was after giving me a good roasting over being injured, which I genuinely was. And he said, as long as you have a kid, you've heard this before, in your body, you'll never be a professional footballer. And then he got sacked. So when he went in to clean out his office, I followed him in, and I said, see you, as long as you have but you'll never be a manager. He got reinstated 2 weeks later with the new chairman. So, no, you're going back to your question. It's a very uncomfortable work environment. If you're a manager, for you, but if you're a player, regardless of the man, you just want them out. And that's how it goes. So I don't see that on the interviews with the Liverpool players. Normally you can see them looking away, looking down, and but I don't think he's lost the dressing room.
Well, a tough place for them to be in, but we'll keep an eye on it. And moving on then to Arsenal. They won the big top of the table Champions League match last week, defeating Bayern Munich 3-1. Declan Rice, you mentioned him already, Roddy. He was pulling the strings. And last week you said you weren't a fan. He's overrated. After that performance, what are you thinking?
Yeah, excellent performance. Absolutely excellent for the team and for Declan Rice. However, as I say, this is from Declan Rice. One swallow doesn't make a summer, And I looked at the performance. Maybe he's further up the pitch, getting more involved tactically. Obviously, we go back to his deliveries. That's a Beckham-esque conversation. But I looked at it and I went, you know what? That's a performance that was there tonight. And then I listened to his post-match interview, and he said there was a burning fire in my belly, and everyone felt it and everyone had it. And that's when the penny dropped. He's a honeymoon footballer to me. Roy Keane had the burning sensation and the fight in his stomach for every training game. And that's where I go back to Rice. He'll go back to the weekend now in the Premier League, and he'll saunter around stroking 5-yard, 10-yard passes, put a few deliveries in, and people will laud him for the performance against Bayern Munich, where he should be going out. No, he could prove me wrong. I hope he doesn't, because I hate being wrong. But if he goes out the weekend and in consecutive games and performs like he did in the Premier League against Bayern Munich, well, then I'll give him some recognition. But until he does it consistently, he's still a honeymoon fella for me.
Right, well, we're going to come back to this, definitely. We'll have to see how he goes now in the next week or so. But I think for Arteta, he's eventually sort of filled in the missing pieces in the jigsaw, in this squad. He's now assembled a very strong squad that can compete in both Europe and the Premier League now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's time now, over the last 2, maybe even 3 years, Arsenal fans and just general Premier League fans have been telling me Arsenal need to go and win something. And I was prepared to say, look, PSG in Europe are absolutely unbelievable. Manchester City and Liverpool over the last couple of years in the Premier League have took the standard to a new level. So I was prepared to say, look, we're a very good team, but there's other very good teams out there. But this season feels like you say, Arteta has just got all the pieces to the puzzle. And to be honest, this is probably exactly why I'm not a manager. I looked at Noni Madueke coming into Arsenal and I thought, what is the point in that? What is the point in having 50 million and getting a winger that I think he scored 2, maybe 3 goals for Chelsea last season in the league? Very effective player, but I thought, why do Chelsea want to let Madueke go to a London rival? there must be something in the background there. Talented boy, but I thought, take that 50 million, throw another 50 million to it, and go and get Ollie Watkins out of an Aston Villa or something like that, and Isak, Joe Pedro before he went to Chelsea. But my God, Madueke, when he comes off the bench, he scores the goal against Bayern Munich. I know he had a little injury, but started the season so well. Looks like he's going to keep playing like we need him to play. Victor Gyökeres, I don't think he's going to score 20 goals, actually, but I think he'll get between 10 and 15. And that's exactly what Arsenal need. And it's not just, the amount of goals that Gyökeres will score. It's occupying two centre halves, being that big lump up there, holding people back and saying, you just want to go man for man. Do it at your peril, because I just roll people. He's a big wrecking ball up there at times. Zubamendi has been absolutely unbelievable. I was delighted that Arteta was able to go and have a chat with him. It looked like he was going to go to Liverpool at one point. He had a chat with him, being from the Basque region. I think obviously helped Arsenal in that cause with Arteta, the relationship that him and Zubamendi had. But the one signing, and I remember saying this, Abrici Eze, we need to get Eze into the build. And when he was talking about going to Spurs, I thought, he's a gunner. We cannot let a gunner go to Spurs. He's basically saying, come and get me, Arsenal. I want to sign for you. And thankfully, Arteta's seen it the same way. And he's been unbelievable. He's an English international. What he was doing for Crystal Palace, and then what he's doing for England, and what he's doing for Arsenal. A hat-trick against Spurs, brilliant against Bayern Munich. I absolutely love him. And I just think the balance in the midfield is really, really good with Zubamendi, Eze, Rice. Rice will run around, break things up, can go from box to box. Zubamendi has a little bit of everything in him, and Eze is just a little bit of stardust there. So I agree, Ashton, I think we have every piece of the puzzle, but we need to win something this season, otherwise it will be a disappointment. People are stopping me in the street saying congratulations on winning the Premier League. I keep telling them it's only November. You don't win anything in November.
Cash your bet in now.
I wish I could.
Well, moving on then to the Europa League. So Celtic, they had a brilliant win in Netherlands. It was Celtic 3, Feyenoord 1. Celtic's first win away there since 2001. And guess what? It was Martin O'Neill who was the manager then too. And he really has just done a fantastic job since coming in as that interim manager. Won away in Europe. He got Celtic to a cup final, closed the gap in the league. And I think he just has Celtic playing better football with a belief about themselves, and also a Rangers win thrown in there as well for good measure. He really has just turned things around. You couldn't really have hoped for much more, Roddy.
No. And we forgot to mention it for Liverpool if it comes up. I'm joking. Listen, Martin is pragmatic. He's a pragmatic man. He's a pragmatic football manager. He does the basics. He doesn't complicate it. He's a fantastic man manager. He's an unbelievable motivator. He understands Glasgow Celtic as a club, because a lot of the stuff that goes on up in Glasgow Celtic is out of control of the players. It's the pressure, the bowl they all live in. He can control that. He was perfect at the time to be brought in, because there was murders between the supporters clubs and the board, so they needed a respected figure to come in. And even the other night, all they kept saying was Martin O'Neill, Martin O'Neill, Martin O'Neill. So he was already a legend. But on the performance the other night, Celtic struggling in away performance in Europe under Brendan Rodgers as well. And I believe the Celtic performance the other night was, as I say, very pragmatic. It was on the front foot as much as possible. There was a relaxed demeanour of the players. They looked as if they were enjoying themselves. They go a goal down and then they retrieve it and they finish off with 3-1, and possibly could have been more. So, look, Martin O'Neill is an unbelievable manager. And the only thing that disappoints me, because of probably my age as well, is that he kept bringing up the age profile, even when he's talking to the interviewers. The age, look, football is a game of intelligence, motivation, understanding people, and he has all those attributes. And brilliant to get him back in. And looking forward to the new appointment now, Ange Ball too, we're going to get, I believe. So, but regards to that, in his pragmatism, he did identify there's a rebuild needed at Celtic, and we all agree on that one. However, the players that are there are still good enough to go and win a cup and the Premier League in Scotland. They are good enough to do that, and he showed the players he's brought in. So, still good days ahead for Glasgow Celtic, and Martin will always be a legend at the club, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up on the board in the near future to keep the peace with the supporters.
And for the next round then as well, Keith, Celtic will host Roma at Celtic Park. So that means that we're likely going to see Evan Ferguson. He's got his first goal for Roma as well. So hopefully he's going to kick on now.
Yeah, we all hope he kicks on. I've been looking at some pictures of him in the paper, and he had like a sleeveless top on while he's training. And my God, he looks like an absolute physical specimen. He's still very, very young. I know they've nicknamed him the Beast over there as well because of his physical attributes. And look, Evan's a good footballer. He's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. What you need to do if you're going to play up front for AS Roma, you need to score goals. It really doesn't matter. You can be as passive as you like in the game, but if you score 2 goals, the AS Roma fans will absolutely love you and the manager will take you to his heart. The opposite side to that is you can work your socks off, but if you don't score goals, they're not really going to take you. Now, Evan has scored one. He's had some okay performances. Then the manager has had a little slap on his wrist and saying, you've had long enough to integrate yourself into the team. You've moved over. It's time to start seeing some rewards on the pitch. Thankfully, it looks like Evan may be getting there now, but look, he's still a very, very young lad playing at a massive, massive club, and he's way ahead of the curve to be doing what he's doing now. So I still think we're very selfish when we look at Evan and think, yeah, you're doing great, but we need you to do more for Ireland. We need you to do more, and I don't think we can put them type of selfish needs on players. We've done it with Troy, we've done it with Aaron Connolly, we've done it with so many others in terms of playmakers as well in the middle of the park. He is what he is, and don't don't put Evan into the Irish team and think, okay, now we're going to do something different to what you've been doing at AS Roma. Put him in and get him to keep doing what he's doing at Roma. Use these attributes just like we do with Troy. Don't be asking Troy to do things that he's not naturally good at doing. So I think it's going to be really good. I can't wait to see it. Evan playing against Celtic, it should be great. But yeah, just leave Evan. Sometimes I know as pundits, as commentators, whatever, we see these lads and we think, they talk about them, but sometimes you just need to leave people for a while and see how they go. I mean, it's the best thing we've ever done was try getting a little bit out of the limelight. Look how he's bounced back, and I hope Evan does something very, very similar.
Yeah, and he's such a young player, so I think patience is a big thing there. And he's a good mead man as well, Roddy.
Suburb of Dublin.
Well, moving on then to the Conference League next. So we both had Shelbourne and Shamrock Rovers in action. Shells, they were away to Troy Pirates, AZ Alkmaar. Not to be for Shells, it finished 2-0 in the end. On the next round now, Keith, we'll see Crystal Palace travel to Tala to play Shells. So it doesn't get any easier for Joey O'Brien's team, does it?
No, it doesn't get any easier. This Crystal Palace team, I just spoke about Oliver Glasner and what a job he's done, and a lot of the players within Crystal Palace should be taking an awful lot of pats on the back as well. And the easiest thing for me to highlight is when you look at the amount of players that leave Crystal Palace, they are a selling club. Abrici Eze is one. My mind goes back to Zaha. They've always seemed to sell their best players and just keep going and just keep trucking on. Never seem to get too bogged down about anything. And yeah, I really, really like Crystal Palace. And look, when they come to Dublin, Ismaila Sarr, Mateta, you've got Mark Gahey, that I know he's out of contract and he nearly went to Liverpool. He probably might go to Liverpool in January or the end of the season. If he was in contract, he's probably a 70, 80 million pound defender, plays for England. He will go to the World Cup, barred in injuries. Adam Wharton, he's a wonderful, wonderful footballer. I watched a lot of him at Blackburn Rovers. Just keeps everything nice and easy. He's the sort of player you watch and you think, I could do that. No, you wouldn't. If you were in there, you wouldn't be able to do what he does. Believe me, it's a very, very hard thing. He makes it look easy, and that's credit to Adam Wharton, but it's a lot harder than he makes it look. Eddie Nketiah doesn't even start for Crystal Palace, but such a big, big weapon. So, I think, if you're going up against Crystal Palace and you feel a little bit out of your depth, take learnings out of the game. It's okay to lose games of football when you're playing elite opposition, but make sure you learn. You have a look at Mark Gay. You have a look at what he's doing in the warm up, how he holds himself when he walks into the ground, all that type of stuff. And all the players, like have a look at Robbie Keane and think. I remember Robbie Keane drank a double espresso in the hotel before the game, and I thought I'll have a go on that. And I was sitting on the bench absolutely buzzing. Never got onto the pitch where I was sitting there buzzing with a double espresso with me. So you just take your little learnings off of people. And look, Crystal Palace is a very, very good team. They'll probably finish top half of the Premier League this season. They'll go very, very deep in the European competition. So take learnings out of it, enjoy it. And one thing they should remember is this is a reward. At times it will feel like a punishment because Crystal Palace are so good. But this is a reward, and keep the hunger in your belly and make sure you want to come back for another taste next season.
Yeah, I think for Shells, like it's just been near misses. They've had opportunities, and maybe that comes with experience of being in Europe. Like for a lot of those players, it's their first time. But as you said as well, Roddy and Keith, like it is an opportunity for them to have Crystal Palace, to learn from these players. They're at the top level. So yeah, it's a massive moment for them too. And for Rovers, then they welcomed Shakhtar Donetsk to Tallaght Stadium. It was a brilliant game. Rovers won, Shakhtar Donetsk 2.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say, Keith, that they were beaten by the better team. Shakhtar are a high quality side. They showed that. I think Rovers will take lots from it. And they responded well to going a goal behind as well in that first half.
Yeah, they did. But in Europe, in European football, the most important thing, regardless, we're going to be inferior tactically and technically, that's for sure. But the most important ingredient in the European game is concentration. Concentration is the most important thing, because when you go to the levels that Keith has played at, and you're a lower level, and you switch off, you're exposed immediately. You're gone. Regardless of tactical changes by managers or that, the instance of things happening in the moment on the pitch, you leave an open and you create a mistake through lack of concentration, and you're going to be punished. So that would be the one most important thing I would say to my players. I'd say concentration, keep the game slow, leave the ball out of the ground as long as you can. And the other factor is, and I got criticism for criticising Meepo, the striker of Shelbourne, and his finishing, his abilities or his lack of it in finishing. However, if you're picking a man of the match for me next week and he starts, he'll be man of the match. Like last night, he showed his abilities in the way he can run in behind. He's lightning quick, he's strong. However, when he gets to the final third, his lack of finishing and his lack of maybe knowledge of how to deal with that situation probably cost Shells on him last night. Although Martin missed an absolute unbelievable opportunity, took an extra touch that he shouldn't have taken. But that's, picking a hairs. But look, as I say, getting back next week, Crystal Palace, Shelbourne, the most important ingredient, concentration. Unfortunately, with them being out of season now, Palace flying, it's inevitable they're going to get very tired. They're going to be chasing the ball all over the place. So when you come to the last 20 minutes of the game, it's no matter what you do, you're going to be exhausted mentally, and that's when normally these games open up and the chances start to come for the opposition. But look, Keith said, learn something from it. The preparation, the demeanour of the opposition, the demeanour of the player you're marking. Listen to his communication skills. What's he telling his teammates? You can learn from that. So there's everything in football you learn every day, from a manager's point of view, a player's point of view, even physios, everything. It's a learning curve. So when you sit down and go, okay, it wasn't the desired result that maybe it would be, but it was a brilliant learning curve. So next time round, which they will hope to be repetitive every season, we've learned that much and we'll build on it next year. And that's how it works.
And also that they have 2 games remaining in the league phase. So they travel to Breidablik in Iceland next. They're going to need all 3 points to have any hope of qualifying. Obviously, the last game then against Hamrun at home. It's a tough place to be in, and I suppose they needed probably maybe 7 points. That was it last year, really, to get qualifying. Can they do it, Keith? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Ordinarily you'd be thinking you've only got 1 point on the board. It seems like a tall order, but on paper, it's their 2 easiest games. Breidablik and Hamrun. That's, I say that with all the respect in the world. Breidablik are not a bad team, not a bad Icelandic team. The Hamrun, a Malta team. So if they can get 6 points on the board, 7 points overall, you would imagine that would be enough. And Stephen Bradley sort of said that a couple of months back, that he'd be eyeing up 7 points. I think it's brilliant. We're looking at Shelbourne. I know Shelbourne games are a little bit harder. Nobody really expects them to go on, but there's plenty of learnings in it for them. First time in 20 odd years that they're back in Europe. Shamrock Rovers are a little bit further down the road now, and we expect them to do better, which they have done. They've been competitive, same amount of points on the board. But if they can get 6 points from the last 2 games and get into the knockout stages of Europe, financially, that's absolutely brilliant stuff. And it's just great that we've got 2 League of Ireland teams. Sometimes you can be quite lazy and look at the league table now, the European league table, and think, and the two Irish teams are down near the bottom. They're awful, awful teams. There's a lot more to it than that. Scratch the surface, you'll see that both teams have been extremely competitive, especially Shamrock Rovers. So if they can get those 6 points, Ashton, would it be brilliant to be sitting at Christmas thinking we've got Shamrock Rovers still in a European competition?
Well,
Oh, it was so exciting last year.
If they go to Iceland on the back of last night's performance and take the positives out of that, I would back them to get the 3 points there. And if they get the 3 points there, I would put my house on them to take the 3 off Hamroon. 100%. My friend is the team manager of Hamroon, so he'd be ringing me up for Peter Juice. He's the team manager there. They got a good win last night, 3-1. But
Will you give him no info, yeah?
I'll give no info, zero info. I was accused years ago of giving Gretna information on Derry City. So if anyone up in Derry's listening to this, 100% I would never do it. I didn't do it. All I done was collect the manager who I knew personally, bring him to his hotel, collect him and bring him back, and that was the only involvement I had. They never forgave me in Derry for that, but it never happened. So likewise with Shamrock Rovers, I know I'll get a phone call off Peter Juice. However, it's a weak league. Look, I've managed out in Malta, and they'll get decent results at home, right? But when they travel, Hamroon for me would not be in the same division as Shamrock Rovers. So if I was Stephen Bradley, I'm sure he doesn't need me to tell him, get the 3 points in Iceland, and I think they're looking at a very, very favourable campaign to go further.
Yeah. Well, talking about you as a manager, there's actually a clip that's going around at the minute. It's completely viral from the Rod squad, and it is you having a bit of a confrontation with the linesman, you could say.
That was mild. I liked him. I did. He was a great kid. No, look, I explained this to Keith off camera, to everybody. I had to explain myself on RTE live. That wasn't bullying.
No.
It wasn't. It was a bit of crack. I knew the kid.
Yeah.
Done a couple of afternoon games at 3 o'clock kickoffs, and to me he looked about 12 years of age, and I always had the crack and say, what about 12? Who gave you the fourth official's job? But he was one of these fellas that was a stickler, Keith, for just stepping outside the technical area. You could call the referee an absolute B, and he wouldn't, and you could jump out and shout at nothing. The minute you put 2 inches outside that technical area, he was like one of these parking meter people that jumps on and clamps their car. He was down on you. We were losing 2-0 in a must-win game against Shrewsbury, and we were 2-0 down. Nigel Jamison was at the get the two of them. I looked into the dugout and everyone was shrinking. They were going green with fear. We lost, we get relegated. So I'm going, I need to change the atmosphere. So I put my foot out to wind them up. And then I went into a big rant. And all the lads at the dugout were going, oh, jeez, he's gone on one, or he's mad, or whatever. But it broke the crack. And he laughed. I don't know what people say. I said, I'll tell your mother on you. Because before the game, Keith, it was a midweeker. And I said, is your man out here out in the dark? Are you allowed out this late, are you? And stop, you, Rod, stop. That was the banter we had. So that was it. And funny enough, I was just saying, a company called Football Historians in the UK put it out 2 weeks ago. It's after getting over 1 million views. So I'm flying over on the 16th to Liverpool to do that podcast for them. On the back of that, it was part of a documentary I done 20 years ago. The Rod Squad, it was called. The most mortification I've ever seen in my life. I think I looked at it once full of red wine and I can't look at it again, you know. Horrendous. I thought when I done the documentary, Keith, I was going straight to Man United. I was never coming home. I was going to manage Carlisle, then I was going to be tapped up by another club, United, and then Ireland. And that was me sorted, but unfortunately I was back in the building site 2 years later. So I had to face people from the scaffolding. Collins, can't you manage Carlisle? You want to manage Ireland? I used to shout back up, shut up, here, I'll tell your mother on you.
Do you know what, Roddy? Never change.
Too late now. Too late.
Well, my thanks to Roddy and to Keith for joining me today. And we're going to be back after those round 6 fixtures to review all of the European action. We'll see you then.